Nice to see you all here. Thanks for joining us in Midrand on this lovely Tuesday. So as you heard, my name is David Tromp. So I'm with Broadcom, which is, we used to be Symantec. Broadcom is one of the largest technology companies out there. They acquired Symantec. Show of hands, who's familiar with Symantec as a vendor brand? That's not enough for you, but okay, we'll work on that. So just a quick thing. So it's interesting when it comes to security. If you look at the picture, you see an airplane with a lot of dots on it. So in the Second World War, one of the professors did a study. So they took all the planes that returned to base after a bombing mission and inspected them for bullet damage. And this is the diagram they came up with. So they then put this to a panel and said, okay, where do you think we should add more armor to this airplane? So what do you think the default answer was? Where the holes are, correct? However, these are the planes that made it back to base after the bombing mission. So this is the data they had. This is what they knew where the bullets were hitting. So the right answer would be to strengthen the other areas of the plane, because the ones that get hit in those areas do not make it back home. And this is the premise essentially of security. With the way we're evolving, so whether you public sector, private sector, there's an element of cloud in your infrastructure somewhere, okay? But now, the challenge with that is, how do you apply security to these different, let's call them perimeters, right? Because we talk about secure access service edge. The first word there is secure, because I want to be agile. I want to make my business so that my users, my customers, my partners can do what they need to do in an effective and efficient way. But how do I apply all the right controls to ensure that the security is as tight as it could be without impeding their functionality or the user experience? So the challenge is, you've got home users, because a lot of people work from home post-COVID. You've got people in the office, they may be administrative, they may be required there. And then you've got people like us that are here today, looking at your email on your laptop, on your mobile phone. You still need to perform certain tasks, and this now drives into some of the challenges that you have across the spectrum, right? The user experience suffers because maybe the Wi-Fi here is slow and you're trying to access something and you're not getting what you want because there's all these different launch points onto the internet where you need to go. Then you've got the IT portion in the middle, is what threats are traversing the stuff on the right which they're trying to access and need to access via this, what we call the cloud, but we don't secure it because we have all these different point solutions and we don't have visibility into what they're trying to do and control over it. So what we do is, there's two sides of this, okay? Now, please read through this, because a lot of people hear SACE, but they're not familiar with what it really means. So, and the bold bits here are something that you need to focus on. So first of all, the identity of the entity. So who is it, or what device is it, right? What is the context of the access that they're trying to get? Is it email? Is it files? We have all these compliance rules and regulations that we have to comply to, right? Are we assessing this connection, this access to these systems on a regular basis? Do we have tools for all of these things? Okay? And it's not limited to your office or to your data center. It's limited to infrastructure as a service, software as a service, and people who have been in IT administration and operations will know what a nightmare it is to try and consolidate all these things. Okay? Zero trust is then the moat. So if you think of the medieval times, you had the castle with the moat, the big water thing around it, and you had one entry point and one exit point, which was the drawbridge. So zero trust is the concept of now wrapping all of these controls that we need to put in place based on device, user, task, into one thing, okay? And this is the enabler. So let me just build this out. So here's some of the challenges. Operational people will know what I'm talking about. Employees need access, partners need access, customers need access, okay? What are they accessing it from? Now, in your minds, I want you to think of how many technologies you will need in place to manage and secure all these things. Because first of all, it's employees and partners and customers. Then we have a myriad of devices because people want to connect to it from anything, okay? Where are they connecting from? Are they sitting at Gallagher today on free Wi-Fi, which may or may not be secured? Okay, is it private, is it managed, or is it just an open network? Then we have to apply context to control. What are they trying to do? Who's trying to access it? What are they trying to get to? How do we control that to move to the right, which is on-premises stuff? A lot of people still have data centers, co-located maybe server hosting, things like Terraco on-premise, not necessarily Google or Azure or AWS, right? And then we add another layer to this. So this is where we now step in with the intelligence and automation, is we define the role and the task of the individual that's trying to connect, okay? We then assess the device to say, what kind of device is it? Is it a mobile device? Is it a laptop, okay? Has it got an agent on it? A lot of us have got managed devices because they belong to our company or our department, so it's managed, it has an agent on it, and we can set certain policies. What is the operating system version? Is it no longer supported? How do we control access from those? Because those are vulnerable, they may have been breached. Again, no visibility. Are they joined to the domain? So controllable in terms of authentication. Managed via the agent or via some kind of policy on our Active Directory identity provider. Okay, is it a secure device? Is it an iPhone that's been jailbroken, or an Android device that's been, rooted? And then from the network side, okay, are they connecting from within one of our networks? Are they connecting from within a certain geography, let's say South Africa or SADC or whatever it is? Is it known to us, this network, right? Have we got control over it? Is it a botnet or an attack that's happening by trying to mimic the user, mimicking a device and trying to connect to our infrastructure? Okay? And on this side, where they're trying to connect to, we say, okay, what is the scope of the connection? What resources do they need to access? Then we apply the classification and regulation portion to say, are they accessing sensitive data? According to POPI, there's certain things they can and can't do with it, and we have to comply with that regulation. So what we do is, this moat that I was referring to, we do the risk analysis and the threat intelligence and check for compliance across all of it. Now, it sounds very complicated, but I'll show you how how the picture comes together. Let me skip in front of it, and I'll show you how this fits together. So just in the interest of time, I'm trying to keep it a little bit shorter to get everybody a chance to speak. Right, so if you look at this slide, now at the bottom there, Gartner says that reduce complexity on the network security side by moving to ideally one vendor for secure web gateway, cloud access security broker, zero trust network access, and remote browser isolation capabilities. Now, if you look at this beautiful blue cloud in the middle, this is where our SASE and secure access cloud or secure access, no, it's gone away from me. Anyway, secure access sits, which is our version of zero trust network. Now, according to Gartner, you need 10 components for SASE, secure web gateway. So everybody is looking at this slide thinking, I've got a firewall, and I've got some sandboxing, and maybe I've got DLP, but now I have to buy all of these other technologies to allow me to facilitate this, right? To achieve this goal of saying any user from anywhere, from any device, connecting to anything on the right, which is software as a service or on-premises infrastructure, needs to get there in a secure and controllable and visible way. And we don't only do that as a vendor in the space, we do it as best of breed across all these vectors, okay? We are also the only vendor with agentless zero trust network access. That gives you a great advantage in terms of if I have contractors and I use a VPN solution, I have to provide all of them with agents and credentials and access to the VPN network, even though it's an unmanaged device, to access some of my infrastructure, regardless of if they're a service provider or somebody that is a contractor that needs to do something in our systems, okay? Isolation is what we do, is we encapsulate the web traffic so it doesn't actually go to the device. I don't know how many of you are familiar with virtual desktop infrastructure. So in the Citrix days, you'd log into a server and you'd have a workspace displayed to you, but it wasn't on your actual laptop. So that's what we mean through isolation, is whatever happens on that application or back end that they're accessing, it is never running on the device. It is running within this secure access cloud. Okay, and again, it's best-in-class SSL, so we do decryption. Apologies. So every website nowadays is HTTPS. That's an encrypted tunnel for the traffic in that session. We do selective decryption to ensure that what's moving through that tunnel does not get to a device. And again, you saw the security controls that we can apply automatically to ensure what they're trying to access, they have the right access to. So we'll work through a use case. Okay, so if you look at the bottom yellow bit, right? So you have the connection side of things. When they get to the internet, so here you're looking at people from your office, people from regional offices, roaming users, typically in a normal or legacy type environment, the head office would connect to all the branch offices and everything would be routed through one place. And there you have some kind of control over, what kind of web access do we provide, what can they access on premises, things like Exchange and SharePoint and things like that. So the first step is so now we're looking at, see the top right is managed devices. So these are your devices. They belong to the government department, or maybe you allow users to bring their own device, but you have some kind of agent and control software that you put on them, okay? So first we facilitate now the connection. So everything gets routed to one place, which is the blue on the left-hand side, right? SD-WAN, whatever you're using, IPsec tunneling. First we provide the connection. That gets routed through the proxy, okay? So a user that works for the department is trying to access just a normal website, okay? But because it is routed through Secure Access Cloud, what we do is, first we authenticate and validate the user using an identity provider, so Active Directory in this case, right? Then we say, okay, it's SSL. Now something I want you to note is how the white blocks on the right get highlighted as we move through this process, right? So first thing is we go through the software firewall that's part of the service. We ensure that the site they're accessing is allowed and it's a valid site. Then we authenticate them using an identity provider. If it's a contractor, we can enable things like two-factor authentication. Okay? Now, we've also got content and URL categorization. So what kind of site can they visit? Is it a bad site? Is it a site that shouldn't be allowed? Are they trying to download stuff? Malware services, and the isolation portion is we take the browser, we put it in a sandbox. If they try to download something, we check that that download is legit, and then we add the DLP portion to it to say, what are they trying to download? Is there a compliance or a confidentiality requirement around that we need to prevent? Okay. Now, they've moved from a normal website that they wanted to visit to some of your infrastructure. Okay. So now they're accessing something in your data center or one of your infrastructure or platforms as a service. Again, we do the authentication, they come in, and then we apply the inspection and control technologies automatically based on what they're trying to do. Okay? So we apply the policies without you having to set policies for endpoint agents, for URL categorization, for firewall access to certain sites on certain services, on certain ports, specific URL redirection. We do that automatically based on the security policy stack that we have within the solution. And when we connect the user to the service, so again, it's almost like streaming the solution to them. It's not a direct connection, it's one way. It connects to our cloud. Our cloud facilitates all the back-end connectivity, security, controls, and filtering, and the clean content, if you want to call it that, is presented to the user regardless of the device they're connecting from. Again, managed devices, right? Same thing. Now they want to access Office 365, Dropbox. We also have a lot of instances where clients have OneDrive that is sanctioned, everybody works for them, they can use it, or Box, any other cloud services. Now they're using Dropbox as well. Now there's also where you lose visibility because they want to try and put something in Box. Maybe there's a DLP policy that prevents it from happening, so they try and use Box. We refer to this as shadow IT because you don't have, again, the picture of the airplane. Where we can't see the red dots is where these guys are, hitting the plane, if you want to call it that. So we then say, okay, let's find out if they're using their services. Then we also provide visibility to say the cloud storage applications that are in use within the department are the following. Then you can put a control in place to say only OneDrive is allowed because that is sanctioned and it's company approved. Okay? Managed devices. Now we're going, and again, any of the reports and logs and telemetry that come out of any of these systems can also feed into your SOC or SIEM solution that you have. A lot of people run QRadar, things like Splunk. Maybe they have an operations center. They want people to react to, when violations on these policies occur. So we can put that all into your system that you have. Okay, so let's go into the unmanaged devices. So now this is more in terms of, it's a bit slow, this thing. So now I have contractors or I have partners that need to access some of my systems or services. They don't have an agent, but we then provide them with either an application portal, so there's a URL that belongs to the department, that is SSL secured, you can white label it, and we say to all our partners, all right, if you are a managed service provider and you manage our firewalls and maybe our routers for us, we can give you access to that portal, and you would log into a single portal and have access to the systems that are only relevant to your job, and we secure all those connections, right? So regardless of where they want to go, we can apply that control from any device without them having to have an agent or something that you have to own a license for in terms of agent management. Think of yourself as a contractor. If I work for 3 clients, I have to have 3 different VPN agents because right now I have to connect via VPN to all of them. Okay? So now I say, here's the application portal. You belong to this group of contractors. All your access is pre-provisioned. You have a username and password. There's self-service functionality in there if you want to reset it. We can add things like multi-factor authentication. So because of anomalous connections, I'll show you that as well. And again, it's agentless, right? So again, just to highlight this in a nutshell, okay? So first of all, we use the Google Cloud as a backbone for all connectivity to all our points of presence. So by default, if somebody wants to connect to an application portal, as I mentioned now, they would go to the closest POP, which has the least latency, will give them the best experience. We do that with Google because they have the largest footprint in terms of connectivity on a global scale. I think they own about 64,000 miles of fiber across the world to connect all the continents. That's why we sit on that platform. And I mean, if you think of all the web traffic in the world, what do you think generates the most web traffic on a daily basis globally? Wild guess. YouTube. 15% of the world's global internet traffic is YouTube. And Google runs all of that on their backbone. When was the last time you saw latency on YouTube? Not at Mug and Bean's Wi-Fi because there's 3,000 people on a 4 meg link. I'm talking about a decent connection. All right, so again, low latency, it's key for us in terms of user experience. Okay, we're accessing it from, and again, the controls around that and the anomalous behavior. If you connected from Johannesburg today and maybe your credential set got shared or stolen, then someone tries to connect from Japan, you won't allow that connection even though they have your credentials, right? Because we can apply geofencing to it. So where are the people coming from? Okay, and again, because we have all the capability in the solution, and again, I bring you back to what Gartner says, is it's consolidated into one platform. I don't need the proxy from this guy, the SD-WAN from that guy, some kind of antivirus from another vendor, and some kind of, URL categorization system. All different platforms, all, people that have to be trained on how to use them effectively, are they implemented. We've got a few clients that run, technologies like that are not implemented correctly. I always say it's like buying a Ferrari without wheels. It's not going to get you anywhere. It's nice to look at. You can start it up and it's there, but it's not going to get you anywhere. Okay? So you have to turn on all the features that you have to be able to use it effectively. And again, because it's agentless and managed, it allows you to extend the perimeter. So let's think of, we've also got other government departments where there's interconnectivity. This department is connected to that one. Right now you have to do peering, it's all on your backbone or their backbone, who's latency, who's slowing down the network, all of that. Now you can allow access to all of them because they connect to us and there's a single connection to you. So they can connect to 10 applications which we provide the delivery of to them, but it's only one connection on your side of the link. That's really me. I hope that covered. I'm outside here the whole day, but I try to do it a bit quickly because we're trying to catch up on time.